All right. So we'll wait for this to boot up and see how everything goes. Okay. Sorry, just had to clear my throat. All right, let's give this a moment or two to catch up. The streams, the streams, the streams. So if you do have any questions, please chuck them in. I'll do my best to answer them. I promise. And yeah, let's wait a moment. Okay. Hope everyone's doing well on this Friday, wherever you are. Well, it's a Friday night for me. Things are coming, things are loading up. Yeah. All right, perfect. Now what I need to do is, last but not least, is record. No, not record that screen, record this screen using the mic, which is a PodMic Pro, and turning on this. All right. So recording it there, and finally recording it. Yeah. All right. I think we are ready to rock and roll. All right. I think we are. So what I'll do is I will take my headphones off, and hopefully we can have a great evening. So if you have any questions, please just chuck them in. I'll do my best to answer them. All right. Let's get into it. All right. So where's everything? It's right here, and let's do it. All right. So hello and welcome to this video. And today we're going to cover some advanced web form building techniques, some advanced topics, which could hopefully level up your skills. And ho- you may know some of these advanced techniques, you may not. But the goal for this session is to just to expose people to some advanced techniques that I've used in the past when it comes to web form, because web form itself is a pretty massive module. I personally like it because it's one of the few modules that's actually a product in Drupal. And what I mean by that is you install it and you get a product, which is great. A lot of other modules are more kind of like toolboxes or tool kits or something like that. And so, yes, you install it, but then you need to spend another 20 hours configuring it. Well, that's Drupal in general. With great power comes great responsibility. I don't know. So today we're going to be looking at a few advanced techniques in web form, and I'm going to assume that you know web form. I'm not going to take you through the beginnings and how to use it. I do have a video on the WebWash YouTube channel about that. If you want to learn more, just head over there. That takes you through the process of setting up web form. So I'm going to assume a certain level of web form knowledge here. Now, before we jump into things, I just want to preface this by saying if we scroll all the way down, normally at this point I'll say just grab the latest version and it works with Drupal 11 as of this recording. But unfortunately, the latest stable version for Drupal or 10 or Drupal 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever, is Drupal 10. 6.3, which is all the way down here, supports Drupal 11. Now, I tested out this dev release. it worked, it installed, but there were a few bugs. But to be fair, it is a dev release. So if your website heavily uses Webform, well, you're probably not on Drupal 11. So for this video, I will be using Drupal 10. Apologies. So if I get that comment saying, why didn't you use Drupal 11? That is why. Now, you're going to probably watch this video after the fact. So when you are watching and if you are following along, go to the project page and just grab the correct version for your Drupal version. So just double check that, because most people are going to be watching this video after the fact, not right now. But if you are watching right now, just chuck a comment in so I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. All right. So with that, let's jump over to our Drupal site. So here's my Drupal site. The only thing I've done at this point is I have downloaded the 6.2 version of Webform, and I've installed it, and that is it. And the first technique, the first advanced technique we're going to look at is using, so let me go to extend, let me close that, and I'll search for Webform, because Webform has a whole bunch of great submodules. And one pretty useful submodule is this one. It is called Webform Cards. And this actually provides a card container that gives you nice client-side multi-step form pagination. Now I'm just reading this right here because he says it right there. But it gives you nice validation on the client side. It does require the client-side validation module, which is right here. And it is a pretty popular module for just having client-side validation through JavaScript. And so what we're going to do is, before we download this, let's go ahead and update our form so that it actually has multiple pages. So click on Structure, Forms, and we're going to use the standard contact form. And just click on Build on the right-hand side. And you'll see this form is pretty basic. It has 4 elements. Now, just a quick thing. Web form calls fields elements, not fields. Whereas we're Drupal people, well, everything's Drupal, let's be honest. But when you add a field onto a content type or a fieldable entity, they're called fields. But in web form, they're called elements. So field elements, same thing, just an element on the form. So I will be referring to these as elements. So here we have 4 elements: your name, your email, subject, and message. Now, to create these as pages, and you'll see just how easy it is to create these, how to create a multi-step form, is to click on Add Page, and I'll call this one Enter Name. So let's just create a page for every single element, essentially. The next one will be Enter Email. The other one's going to be Enter Subject. To just double check that. And the last one will be Enter Message. All right. We've chucked all of those in. And you can see here that these are just really elements themselves. Let's move them up. And so Enter Name, we'll put in your name under that. Or Enter Email, we'll put in your email. Or Enter Subject, we'll put in subject. And Enter Message, we'll put message. And then click on Save Elements down at the bottom. Now, if you click on View at the top here, you will see a multi-step form. You can click on Test. This actually just pre-populates things and just makes life a lot easier. So you can click on Next here, and you can see that it reloads the page. Again, you can click on Enter Subject and then click on Next right here, and then submit it, and it's going to submit it. All right. Now, that does a pretty good job at creating a multi-step form. It reloads the form, and you can switch it to Ajax, but let me show you how to use the Webform cards. So first we need to come along in here and download client-side validation. So I'll do that, and I'll jump over to Terminal, and I'll just paste this in, Why isn't this copying? Let me try that again. What is happening here? All right, let's clear that again. There we go. It's going to come down and download it. Perfect. And let's go to extend, refresh. And if we search for web form, we should see Webform Cards, and it is allowing us to install it. So let's go ahead and click on install. Just give that a second. I'm going to go ahead and do whatever it has to do, and it's going to install it for us. Then if we go to structure, web forms, and go back into our web form, you will see this message up here. Do you want to convert this web forms wizard pages to cards? You can click on convert. So this will change the this page element type to cards. You want to confirm that you need to probably double check and test things. Don't make sure to test the converter form on the staging, and so don't do it on production. Then click on convert. And you can see now that it is a card element. Then scroll down and click on save. Now, if we click on test, you will see that we get this new fancy client-side pagination. And if we remove a value, it's going to give us a little nod and tell us that field is required. You can go ahead and submit them. And there you go. So that is visually, it just looks nicer, I think, if everything is done on the client side. But again, it really comes down to how complex your forms are. If you have elements with a lot of conditional logic, you'll still probably have to do some form of server-side validation. But if your form isn't that complex, it does look a lot nicer when you use the Webform Cards sub module. So if you're looking to spruce up your forms and they're not that complex, check out the Webform Cards sub module. Now let's take a look at predefined options. Now, what are predefined options? To answer that, let's go back to our form and let's create an actual select list. So what I'll do is I'll come here, click on add element, search for select, and I'll call this one tech. And if I scroll down, I'll make sure my head's not in the way. There we go. And I will enter in the values of Drupal, WordPress, and React. Scroll down and I'll click on save. And let's move this up to the enter name section and click on save elements. Okay. Now, if we go back to our form, let's go all the way back. Let's actually refresh this page. And we can see a drop down with a few options. Simple stuff. This is just basic web form building. Now, imagine you had a list of options that was like 20 or 30 long in size, and you wanted to share and reuse the options across multiple forms, but you may want to also display it in a select element or checkboxes or radio buttons, but you want to keep one set of options, like a canonical list of options. How do you manage that? Well, luckily, Webform allows us to create predefined options. And this is a great way of just having a standardized category listing or any type of listing, really. So if we go to structure up the top here, and then click on web forms, and you click on options, here you will see a list of 33 predefined options. So we have days, months, time zones, industry. You also have titles, country codes, country names. You have all sorts of predefined lists, and then you can easily select uh, exactly which option you want to use on your element without having to re-enter it in. And then you can reuse it across multiple forms. So let's go ahead and change our list and let's create a reusable options. So I'll call this one tech, keep it consistent. And let's enter in similar options. So I'll call this one Drupal, WordPress, and let's put in Joomla. Now, for people who don't know, Joomla is another open source content management system. And let's also put in React. And I actually played around with Joomla before Drupal a long, long time ago. So if we scroll right down at the bottom, we can see here our tech. And unfortunately, my head is covering it, so I can't really see it. But there is an edit here on the right-hand side. And if you click on edit right down at the bottom, you can go in there and just make your changes. Now, to use this option in our select element, what we need to do is go back to build, go into our element, scroll down, and let's remove these options. And then from the options drop down here, you can select any of them. You can go in there and select whichever one you want. But let's select tech. That is our one. And then you want to make sure you save it. Always save it. And I'll click on save elements down there. Or what is it? Save elements. Yes, it is. Then if we click on test again, scroll down, we should see our new options with Joomla there. So we know it is new. So if you want to create reusable options in Webform that you can then share across other elements or even as well as other forms, then look at creating options first and then pointing your actual element to those options because it just makes it a lot easier to maintain. And there is one thing editors love, and that is to standardize and fixate on, a standard list of categories or a standard list of tags, which is important. I totally understand. I totally understand. And this just makes it a lot easier for them to really control the options because a lot of time is spent building out forms. And I have been on the other side of building forms where you have to actually figure out what elements you want on the form. And there's a lot of thought involved in that. Let's continue our look in elements, and I want to show you how to use a composite field. Now, you may be thinking, what is a composite field? Well, a composite field allows you to group composite elements. A composite element allows you to group multiple elements together. So think of this as kind of paragraphs, where you can have multiple fields on paragraphs grouped together. Or, now I'm showing my age, field collections. If anyone, raise your hand if you know what field collections is, because field collection was before paragraphs, I believe. I think even paragraphs was inspired by field collections, which essentially allows you to group fields together. So a composite element allows you to group composite elements together in a single element. Let me just show you. That's probably the best way to demonstrate it. So let's imagine we want to add in a section where people can put in their work experience. And we need to track which tech they were using. Again, I like to use the drop down of tech, and also how many years of experience they have. And they can put in any number of items as well. So how would you represent that in a form? Well, we would create a composite element. So let's go into build and click on add element, and I'll search for custom composite. We have one here. And this one I need to push out a bit because it does kind of squeeze everything in there. And what we can do Let me just copy a few things down here. We first want to call this title. Well, let's call this one work experience. And the first element, so this is pretty much just putting in an element, like a nested element. The first one will be the actual years. So the number of years. So let's just put in ex underscore years. And I will select, what is it, number field. And then I'll enter in here years. And let's click on add for another one. And this one will be ex tech. And I'll select, where is it? Right down the bottom here, I'll select the select element. And then I'll choose our tech options. And then I'll enter in a title of tech. Then we can scroll all the way down and click on save. And let's click on save elements. And if we go to test, you can see our work experience composite right here. Let's fix it up. Let's move it into an actual page. So let's move it to, say, the email section. Click on view. And then let's click on next right here. Then we can come along in here and we can enter in our experience. So I've got 10 years of Drupal experience, 11 years of WordPress experience, 4 years of React, and I don't know, 5 years of Joomla. I can even reorder it up and down, and I can click on next, put in a subject, put in a message, and it's gone. Now, how is that represented in the submission? So let's go back here, click on results, look at our submission, and here on the right hand side, all the way over here, you can see that the work experience is then displayed in this type of format. So it's kind of grouped together, which makes it very easy to use. So if we click on the ID, we can then see right here our work experience. And this is the composite field. So if you need to group fields in a very specific way and you want to, group them, then look at using a custom composite element. Now, I must admit the UI for it is a little tricky, as you can see. So let's go back here. Wait, let's just refresh this page. Where is it? Top here. You do need to pull this out and just really play around with it. You do have a lot of elements. Now, not all elements I can see are available, but the major ones, which are like actual form elements, are there. So if you need a way to group your elements in a simple way, similar to paragraphs or similar to field collections, now I am really showing my age, then take a look at creating this type of element. Let's now change gears a bit and focus on embedding forms, and specifically how to pre-populate the form when you have embedded the form through an actual field. So let me close this. And what we're going to do is let's go to structure and let's add a web form field to the page, to the basic page content type that will allow us to embed it into a page through an actual basic page. So to do that, you want to click on content types and then click on manage fields and then create a new field. Now from this page, you can't see web form, but what you need to do is click on reference because it's technically a entity reference field. This is a bit of a Drupalism, but it is there. When this UI changed, because before you could see all of the fields from a dropdown, and then I don't know which version of Drupal, but this UI changed. And then I looked at the code and it's like, oh, that's right, it's all grouped under reference. So select reference. Then click on continue, and you should see web form right here, right here. So let's call this one web form. And then click on continue and click on save. Then if we go to content, add content, basic page, you will see this field here, right here. And then we can select our form. And then in default submission data, this is YAML, you can pre-populate the form by entering in the element value using this YAML format. And so here are some examples. You can see right here, you can see some examples. And the good thing is it even supports token. Now, before we jump into things, let me just install token. The token module should be used on pretty much all Drupal sites. So what is it in token? So the token module just gives you a UI for managing these type of patterns, these replacement patterns, whatever you want to call them, tokens. And it just gives you a nice little UI. So if we refresh right here, along down here, we do get this nice little pop-up right here, and it just makes it easier to find it, okay? So let's go ahead and pre-populate the subject element. Now, what we need to do is we need to find the key for that element. So let's go back to our form. Can we go back here? Yes, we can. So click on build, and what you want to do is grab the key. So in our case, it will be pretty simple. It'll be subject. And we can come along in here, type in subject, colon, and then custom subject. Oh, let's select our form, and we'll call this one test web form page. So right now we're hard coding it. So click on save and click on next, next, and you can see that now it's been pre-populated. Okay, pretty simple, but it's hard coded. Okay, that's the most important thing. Straight away you're going to be like, okay, how do I make it dynamic? That is the first thing everyone wants to know. How do I make things dynamic? And this is where this is where token helps. So let's go back, and what we can do is open up this token, and the tricky part really is to find the correct token. So I do know that if we to grab the current page, just click on current page, and you want to grab this token right here. So I'll copy that, and I will close this, paste it in there, and click on save. And then now what you can do is click on next, next, and it's pulling in the title dynamically from the page title. It's not pulling it in from the node title. It's technically pulling it in from the page title. And I do know that Drupal places the node title in the page title. Now you could do things such as passing a node ID into a hidden field. This is where things like this will really be useful. So what you could do is you could come along in here. So let's just demo this actually. Let's add in a hidden field. And let's just call this one hidden, custom hidden. And for some reason you want to track, I don't know, something on the site. Okay, this is a hidden field. You can't see it on the front end. It is still visible to the end user, but it's not visible. They can't actually see it. So don't put anything actually very sensitive in there. But what you could do, come along in here, refresh, and let's chuck in, I don't know, let's think of something to put in here. URL, site URL, random. All right, let's just put a random number. And what was the actual custom hidden? Okay. So just imagine, you can put whatever you want. Oh, no, that's not it. There we go. Custom hidden. a random number, and it gets saved. And I do believe if we inspect, we should find, tricky part's going to be finding it. Well, actually, let's just go, what is it? Custom hidden. Here you go. It is there. So you want to be careful. You don't want to put in sensitive data because people can't see it. It is simply there. So the value is there. And then if we go through the process of submitting the form, then we go scroll up, click on build, or no, sorry, results, and go view. We should see where is hidden. Yeah, go. Right down the bottom, we have custom hidden field. So this is where you would really use the functionality to pre-populate elements, and that is passing values in a hidden field across over to the submission for some reason, because then if it's in the submission, then you can pass it off to some type of tracking thing if you want to track email subscribers or I don't know, something like that. There's many reasons on why you should do that. Now let's look at integrating Webform with third-party systems. And we're going to do that using a SaaS application called Make. So make.com is a no-code automation tool similar to Zapier, but it's cheaper. That's the biggest reason to use it. And so, and also to be fair, it actually works very well. I use it for a few things. I don't use it heavily, but I do use it for a few things. And here you can see these templates. You can see there are a lot of templates here that you can use. And so you can imagine what Make can be used for. It can be used to integrate Notion and Google Calendar, Telegram, get Telegram messages for new Google Sheets row. You can even do all this AI stuff. Of course, there's a lot of stuff you can do. You can even process JSON and do things. And yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff you can do right here. So what I want to do is push submissions. So whenever somebody submits the form, push them into a Google Sheets as a new row. And that's it. Okay. This example is basic. I totally get that it is basic, but I thought it's important to just demonstrate how to use it, because once you understand how to get data out of Webform into Make, then you can do a whole bunch of stuff. You could do things such as creating a event registration or a webinar registration if you're using webinar software, such as what is it? Zoom, or using MailChimp. You can easily set up checkboxes and conditional logic and all that type of stuff by setting up these systems. And best of all, you don't need to write any custom code. And that's the huge thing. Like, yes, you can integrate this yourself, but you need to write custom code. That's the thing. So go ahead and create a free account. The actual the free plan for Make is pretty decent. I'm not being sponsored, by the way. I'm not being sponsored at all. I use their free account, and I use it, and I've got one or two scenarios set up that I use on a daily basis to just create what do I use it for? I use it to create Google Drive folders and documents, part of my content creation process, just to automate that stuff. So once you have set everything up, what you want to do is come to login. Well, first of all, of course, and then go to scenarios. And then here you can see all of your available scenarios. And then up the top here, click on create a new scenario. And what we're going to do is we need to configure Webform to send out a remote post, so a webhook, into Make. So we first need to set up our actual webhook. So you want to click on webhook right here, and then click on custom webhook. And what you can do is select an existing one or create a new one. And well, let's just actually create, well, in actual fact, let's just go ahead and, well, let's cancel that. And let's create a new one. I'll call this one custom web form post. And you may want to put in an IP restriction. And this is your actual URL right here that you need to give to Webform. And then Webform is going to post to this URL. And you can see now that it is listening for incoming requests. So what we need to do is copy this, then go to our form. Let's go to, well, structure, web forms, and let's then click on settings and handlers. And here you can see you've got an email handler or a normal handler. Now, handlers, a handler is just something that happens after the submission has been um, has has been submitted. So you can put in an email handler or you can put in just a general handler. All right, so we've got a comment from Twitch. Oh, hello, welcome. Oh, it's good to see people on Twitch actually watching the video. I've been working with Drupal for 3 years now, and you've been teaching me lots of new things. Well, that is great. Absolutely. Well, it's good to know that people are learning things from me on Twitch. Now I'm just trying to figure out how I actually reply back to this person. Oh, thanks. All right. So now what you need to do is click on Add Handler. And you do have a few options here. You have like action, debug, remote post, or setting. The one that we want to select is add a remote post. And you can call this, what is it? Make webhook, whatever you want. And then in completed URL, you want to put in the actual URL. So when the submission or when a submission has been completed, it'll post it in there. You can even add in a URL for when it's updated. If you want to track updates, you can also add in a URL for when it's deleted as well. And then if you scroll further down, you can see what information is actually sent to the actual user. Oh, sorry, to make.com. So let's scroll down, click on save. And the other thing I'll also mention is like over here under operations, you can also disable and duplicate these handlers, because sometimes, especially if you're working remotely, you may want to disable some of these email notifications that get sent out when you're testing, or you will start getting contacted and somebody will say, I'm receiving emails from this form. Who's submitting these forms? I can't get access to these forms, so on and so forth. So yeah, you really want to be careful about, especially if you're working locally on a web form. Whenever I have to fix up or submit a web form on any platform, I always check to see if there's any handlers. So save the handler. Let's go back here and let's just make sure it is listening. It is. And what we need to do is come to test and let's just submit it. Been sent. And then if we go back to make, you'll see that it has been successfully determined. There you go. It's determined. Click on OK. And now it can accept. Now it knows it can accept requests, and it also knows the structure or the schema of the incoming request. Now we need to add in another module. Now this isn't a Drupal module, this is just what they call it. And you can see all of the available options you have here. So there's a lot. There's a lot of platforms that it's integrated with. The one that we want is Google Sheets. So click on that. And then you've got a whole bunch of other options here as well. But under rows, click on add a row. and you want to connect. So you'll have to do this one-time connect only once, where it does it through OAuth or something. And then once connected, you need to find your actual Google sheet. And what I like to do is just enter in the ID. It's the easiest way. Then once you paste in an ID, you give it a sheet name, then give it a second, and it'll then grab the headers from the first row. You can see that this matches these headers up the top here. So now all we need to do is simply map across these values to the actual columns. And that's it. So name will go in first name, email will go into email, and tech, where's tech, will go into tech. And then you can add in extra ones if you want. You can even put in custom hidden. No, let's just chuck that in there. Then click on OK down at the bottom. You want to save it. And now you want to switch it on. So here on the bottom left, make sure you switch it on. Oh, I have exceeded my free active ones. All right, well, let's just go back here. Switch off this one. And where is inactive scenarios? Go back here. Let's edit this one. Is this one that I just created? Yes. No, it is not. Anyway, let's just add in, let's go back. Where's the one that I just created? Is it this one? This one must be it. Edit. There we go. And then click on. There we go. So once that's all set up, make sure, so once everything is set up, make sure you switch it on. Very, very important. Or you'll be figuring out, pulling your hair out why it's not working. The other thing you can do is just click on this explain flow and it will just give you a flow. Now, this is a very basic flow, of course. And then if you have a lot of modules, you can click on this auto align and then it will automatically align it for you. So now that everything is working, let's give it a test. Let's go back here. Where is it? Let's go to our web form test. I'll give this one make test. Click on next, next, and then send a message. And if we go here, we should see our actual submission has been entered in. Now our custom hidden hasn't been passed. Now, why is that? The reason for that, because we weren't on the actual basic page. Let's go back here. Basic page test. Next, and chuck that in. Come along in here, and now we get our actual custom hidden value. Because remember, that was only passed in because we embedded it and we set a pre-populated value. So this is just a basic example of using make, but as you can see, I hope it does really, open your eyes to the possibility of integrating Webform with other platforms. Now, the other thing I'll also mention and show you is what happens if things stop working. So let me just rename this so I can call this one live stream. So if something happens, I save it. How do you debug it? So if you go back into scenario and we go to our live stream one, you will see right down at the bottom here, you will see the number of, the number of, amount of data that's been sent. But if you go to history, you can see when things were submitted And if you click on detail here, and I believe if you click on the item, maybe not that one, where is it? Is it that one? Let's go back. This one, you can actually see here we go, the output. You can see the information that's been actually passed in. So this is a great way of just debugging and testing things and making sure things are getting passed through. Because if something's failing or something's not getting passed and you're figuring out why isn't it coming through um, into Google Sheets correctly, come and check out this because this will show you exactly what's coming out of Webform. And then if you click on here, you can see the input, and then you can also see the values here, and then you can see the output that's getting passed. So what's getting sent to Google Sheets, and then what Google Sheets is returning. So if you want to then chain up a few extra things and like chain them up and send them across, you can see all of that. So when it comes to integrating Webform with other platforms, you do have a lot of options out there, especially if you use a system like this or even Zapier. Zapier has the ability to do the same thing, but with webhooks, I think they put that behind a paywall now. You have to be on a plan, unfortunately, to access all that stuff. So just to recap, so if we come back here for web form, so just to recap, so we looked at how to create a multi-page, how to use a web form cards submodule, which allows you to create nice, fancy multi-page. So if we come along in here, nice multi-page forms. Then we looked at setting up a predefined select list. We also then took a look at custom composite field, like so. Also then looked at how to pre-populate elements on a form, and finally how to integrate make with Webform. So that is it from me. If you want to learn more about Drupal or any other CMSs, head over to webwash.net. If you want to learn more about other things as well, we've got a whole bunch of information at Webwash. And also, we do have a lot of videos on our YouTube channel. So just head over to the Webwash YouTube channel and go under, I think, live, and you will see all of our previous live streams. So check them out, have a watch. And if you do have any comments, please leave them under the video, and also give me ideas for other videos as well and other live streams. Anyway, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Okay. Yeah, no problems. All right. Yeah, good night. Good night. Hope you enjoyed that. Question is, why can't I see that? Anyway, well, thanks for everyone who came. I really enjoyed it. I hope you all learnt something new, especially with Webform. I do like Webform. It's a nice, it is a nice system, a very good module. Hats off to the maintainer. Does a great job. A very good system. And oh, can you make a video on migrate plugin? Oh, yeah, I could. I really, yeah, migrate's such a, yeah, it's a big topic. That's the thing. I try and pick and choose. I try and pick and choose my things, but yeah, migrate's a big topic to cover. But yeah, that's one thing I could do. I did look at using feed. I did a video on feeds. But yeah, that is a good topic to cover. I think somebody did write so I met somebody ages ago that had some website that had a whole bunch of that had a whole bunch of tutorials on migrate migrating in Drupal. But I'm sure if you Google it, you'll be able to find it. Everyone recommended it. All right, anything else before we wrap things up? All right, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'll try and get these chapters. It was fun. I'll try and get the chapters sorted out for the videos because that's pretty important. And I am slowly starting to cut up these videos into smaller videos, like these longer videos into smaller ones. And yeah, one thing I have been thinking of is doing more of like a webinar where it's actually smaller instead of just a live stream, but where people can actually join from like a more of a webinar thing. But then I need to get webinar software for that. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So web form. There's a lot. There's a lot here I can cover with web form in the future. Headless support. That's one thing. I've used web form and headless setup. That would be a pretty good thing to show. Also creating quizzes. That would be. What about true? What about generate? Oh, here we go. PDF generation. That's interesting. PDF. Automatic purge. Yeah, maybe I can do. Maybe in the future I can do. Kind of just like a build session. Build like 3 or 4 different types of forms, not your common forms where you have like what is it? Just a basic drop down where it's like, yep, we do have like a PDF generation where you've built a form to generate a PDF. There you go. That's a very bespoke feature. That is an actual good idea. I need to write these down. Really need to write these down. So PDF generation, I actually have to write this down or you're going to forget it. Ivan, write it down. Write it down. Where's this? Where's this? Possible. I'll put this in a Google Docs. Future ID, future live streams. PDF generation. Create quizzes using a web form. Headless. Web form. What else? What else? What else? Submission. Workflow. That's pretty interesting. Access control. Dialog box. Yeah, there's a lot in there. There's a lot we can cover. All right. Well, I'll finish up. Let's leave it at that. Everyone have a great weekend. Catch you all next week.